El Salvador wants to give away 5,000 passports for free. The president, Nayib Bukele, unveiling a groundbreaking initiative offering 5,000 free passports to highly skilled professionals from diverse fields. They're calling this an inclusive program worth up to $5 billion that will grant full citizenship rights and ensure hassle-free relocation with a 0% tax and tariffs. That's what they say. Let's dig into how it works. Now, what El Salvador is talking about doing is granting to scientists, engineers, doctors, artists, and philosophers citizenship. People who come from all around the world, they want to talk about giving away 5,000 passports. And this is basically a large-scale, what we'd call citizenship by exception program, where there's not a formal citizenship by investment, and they're not asking these people to pay anything. We'll talk about what El Salvador is trying to do with citizenship by investment in a moment. This is not a naturalization scheme because people aren't coming in ostensibly to be naturalized. They're not putting in the years. They're not perhaps going to have to learn Spanish. And so this is just, hey, we're going to find 5,000 really talented people and we're going to bring them in. This is no different than what Singapore has done, granting permanent residences in years past to global artists. Gulf countries, as well as occasionally Malaysia, where we're hosting Nomad Capitalist Live, have given away citizenship to footballers or to Olympic athletes. Hey, we want to win a gold medal or a silver medal. This guy's our best chance. Give him citizenship. Then he can compete for our team. And it's no different than, other programs in Europe that have given citizenship to people who invest or who do philanthropic works or who, save a baby from a burning building in France. Now, where I take a bit of umbrage with the salesmanship is that this is worth $5 billion. And what they're doing that math based on is the fact that El Salvador has talked about this citizenship by investment program where they're going to charge you $1 million focused on Bitcoiners to get citizenship. Prices of citizenship in the Caribbean, which have been as low as $100,000, the Caribbean islands, St. Lucia, Dominica, Antigua, and Barbuda, for example, that's now going up in most cases about $200,000 as the minimum. Still much lower than what El Salvador is talking about charging. And so my frustration with El Salvador is I love the fact that they're opening up tax-friendly and tax-free areas. They want to attract talent. They want to attract capital. They're doing all the right things in that direction. The president is not taking any grief from places like the U.S., the IMF, or any of that. He's doing what he thinks is best for the country. Do I think their passport's worth $1 million in the open market as someone who deals with all the passport programs? No, I don't. And you can get citizenship in Europe for less than that. And most people who have the $1 million probably would qualify to go through one of the donation programs in Europe. So they're basing this $1 million CBI, citizenship by investment value, that they put on, and I haven't really seen that entirely come to fruition yet on a large scale. They're saying, hey, 5,000 of those, that's worth $5 billion. Doesn't really work that way, right? If Malta offers citizenship and they'll charge you less than $1 million, that doesn't mean that someone who lives in Malta for 18 years and naturalizes has gotten $1 million value. They put in the time, they put in the effort, maybe they paid some kind of taxes. It's a different scenario. And so this is what we advise our clients on. What are the best passports? $1 million in El Salvador, unless you really want to be in El Salvador and you really want to be in Central America, that's not worth it. Do I think El Salvador has a bright future? I do. I think there's just better products somewhere else. And so I think people make the mistake when they want to get a second passport of going for the shiny object or being tied to a brand name when what you really want is a result. How do I increase my mobility? How do I increase my global freedom? How do I make sure I have friendly places to go for what it is that I do? Go to nomadcapitalist.com. You can learn more about how we help people do that, not just citizenship, but legal tax reduction, asset diversification, including people who are in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. We help people as a one-stop shop. So let's talk about what's happening in El Salvador. Here's what they're giving you. Here's what they claim. Number one, full citizenship, including voting rights. That's basically how citizenship works. I guess there are some honorary citizenships out there where you don't have all the rights, but generally speaking, if you're a citizen, you have the rights to vote in the country. You may not exercise those, and I don't think that's necessarily something that people should be super excited about. For me, living overseas, having a second citizenship is an opportunity to kind of step back a little bit from the politics and say, okay, this guy could be a pretty visionary leader. All right, do I need to go and be as involved to get myself all worked up in a lather the same way I did where I'm from? Maybe not. It's up to you. Wouldn't judge you if you wanted to go and vote somewhere. But full citizenship generally comes with voting rights. It also comes with a passport. Citizens are entitled to apply for a passport. And of course, when they say full citizenship, what they're talking about is you're given a certificate of citizenship. You are a real citizen. It has been granted in a proper way. It is not something where some of these TikTokers, you go to Mexico and in 16 days they know a guy who puts your name in some system and prints out one of the blank passports with your name and picture in it. That's going to get you into trouble. Full citizenship will not. What they're also saying is the president has highlighted that the passport offer scheme was aimed at ensuring the bright future of El Salvador. Now, this I like. The UAE is doing this. I have not been a big fan of the way that Dubai and the people there have been talking about the corporate tax changes, but I have great respect for what the UAE does in terms of being very open-minded to what's the best way to grow our country. Who do we bring in? What kind of talent and capital do we want? And so the UAE said, hey, let's bring in all the bright talent. They have done at a very high level, for very high level people, citizenship granted in this way. Peter Thiel got citizenship given to him in New Zealand in this way. So what El Salvador is doing is, there's not as much talk about entrepreneurs and business and Bitcoiners, but there is talk of let's bring in people to create a vibrant, well-rounded society. I think it's a good thing to do. And it's what all these countries that you may turn your nose up at sometimes, like a Qatar or a UAE, it's what they do because, hey, they get it. They don't have the vibrant history that some other countries do, but they want to build it. They want to have a reason for people to come and be tourists. They want to have a reason for people to come and live. Right? Why do countries in the Gulf build, opera houses? Well, that's nothing like the opera houses in Europe. Yeah, but they want people to move there and know that they can still go to the opera and still have some of that culture. And that now El Salvador is doing it. Let's be a well-rounded country. That's a good thing. What they're also saying is they will facilitate their relocation. Not a lot of details on that. Does that mean they're paying for you? What it seems like it very clearly means is you want to bring stuff in, we're not going to tax that. You want to bring boxes of stuff? Hey, don't worry about it, bring it in. No taxes and tariffs on moving your family and moving your assets, including commercial value items like equipment, software, and intellectual property. Now, this is an area where I think people sometimes go down the wrong road. I've told the story. In the mid-1990s, my parents talked about, should we move to some other country? And there was talk of New Zealand, for example. And the idea was, sell everything in the US, we're out of the US, we'll still be US citizens, of course, but we're gonna move to New Zealand. Maybe we'll also be New Zealand citizens in the future. Basically, get out of one, go to the other. What we talk about here at Nomad Capitalist is you want to have your fingers in a couple different pies. You want to have your eggs in a couple of different baskets. Is El Salvador the best place to set up your company? Now, if it's part of a 0% deal, how long is that going to last? What kind of companies does it apply to? Some countries do, hey, if you're doing AI, that's 0% tax, or blockchain is 0% tax. But if you're Nomad Capitalist, you do consulting, you help people, that's not 0% tax. But it's possible that they can have a program saying, all right, if you live here, you won't pay tax on your income and we will not include your foreign companies for tax. And so my company could be somewhere else, and that may be the best place to store my intellectual property to where it's respected through whether it's tax treaties or whether it's respected by people I'm doing business with. You may not want to move everything down to El Salvador. That may be one of the requirements. And obviously, if you're going to go to El Salvador and be given citizenship, it'd be nice to give something back to them. But if you're bringing your talents, if you're creating jobs, if you're bringing your artistry or your engineering skills or your philosophy, whatever it is they want, if you're living in El Salvador, then they're getting that. But I'm saying never put all your eggs in one basket. It would also seem like that you're going to actually be moving there. This does not seem like, hey, just come down, grab your passport, and be on the next plane out. That's what a citizenship by investment program would be about. For now, you do not need, under most citizenship by investment programs, to go and spend any time in the country. There are a couple of exceptions, and it's not very much time you have to spend there. So Malta, Antigua, a rather de minimis amount of time. There are countries you can get citizenship in and not even go there. And I would presume that if El Salvador fully rolls out this $1 million passport program, that would be one of them. What this program does for a free passport seems like, hey, come and bring your skills. Don't just come and then go. Come, bring your skills, we'll give you a passport, become part of the community. So there's always a trade-off, time versus money. And what we see a lot of our clients do is, yeah, I don't want to wait 5 years for a passport. I don't want to wait 3 years for a passport. I don't want to have to relocate. If I can donate to a country that's going to put that money to good use, building roads and schools, as they do in the Caribbean countries that offer citizenship by investment, hey, that's good. I'm not looking for a place to live, or if I am, that's not it. This is for, I want to be part of El Salvador society. And so the question is, what would cause you to want to live in El Salvador? A vibrant community of folks who are into Bitcoin in many cases. Now it sounds like a more diverse group of people with all sorts of skills going there. That seems like a good thing. What if they're going to offer you no taxes? Would you go there for that? These are the kind of questions you have to ask yourself. There are plenty of countries that don't have taxes for the kind of people that we work with. They may have taxes for their general populations, but you move in, maybe you get a 15-year exemption. Right? So countries like Italy or Greece, for example, have that. And you can get citizenship there eventually. And so again, you got to ask yourself the question, what would make me want to go to El Salvador and claim this passport? This is not for everybody. And so I think that someone who wants to live there and they want to live in a frontier market that is doing some of the right things, that's great. I don't know that the average 50-year-old with 3 kids wants to go there. Some will, and that's pretty cool. I think people should go to emerging economies with their families. I think your kids would learn a lot. But this is probably more for somebody who's looking to be part of a place that's up and coming and there's a vibrance to it. It could be a very, very early Dubai or a very, very early Singapore. Is that guaranteed? No, that's why it's very, very early. But right now they're doing some things in the right direction. But if you're just saying, oh, they've got 0% tax, yeah, we've helped clients move to 31 different tax-friendly countries. Some are 0, some are low tax. So I don't want you to buy into the brand name, but if you're sold into the story and you like that part of the world, we have people who like to surf. They have good surfing there. There's access to other Central American economies. If you're a resident or citizen, that's kind of cool. And so this is showing exactly what I've told you for years. You're going to see more countries building niches for themselves. The idea that any one place is going to be the Singapore going forward is just not going to happen. This is saying, hey, let's get intelligent people. We have the Bitcoin thing down. We're doing the tax friendliness. Now let's do niches for bringing in well-rounded folks. They don't want everybody through this program. But what they are doing is, hey, let's be counter to the Western world. You've seen the president on Twitter picking on when there's riots in Paris. How come they don't get called a third world country and we do, and we have riots? Actually, we've gotten our riots down. But counter-Western, pro-Bitcoin state, they want low taxes. It proves to me that everyone who says there'll be nowhere to go, of course there'll be somewhere to go. There's always going to be an El Salvador, more recently Argentina, that are making moves in the right direction. Listen, maybe it lasts for one generation, and maybe your children say, hey, El Salvador, it's gone to the dogs, so they elected someone terrible again, and now it's dead. Okay, well, then you'll be out of El Salvador. At least you'll have a passport from it. And quite frankly, if I'm a successful person, if I have money, if I have talent, I think especially as the world becomes more multipolar, I'd rather be Salvadorian than American, because the U.S. comes with a lot of baggage. They have their hand in your pocket. El Salvador's not going to, and if you left, is El Salvador going to follow you around demanding you pay taxes because they control the world reserve currency? Probably not. So I love what they're doing in El Salvador. This is not for everybody. Let's understand the difference between citizenship that they're giving out for doing something and bringing skills is different than citizenship by investment. I think the CBI is certainly overpriced. I think there's a niche for people who want to go and live in El Salvador and get that. Now, if you want to learn about weird passports, I've said if it came down to having a child and they were Mexican or a U.S. citizen, Mexican. By the time that child is an adult, Mexico, the passport's already pretty much as good as the U.S. I think Mexico will be a much more well-rounded place to be from. I'm not saying to live in Mexico, but I'm saying if you had to give birth in the U.S. or Mexico and your child took that passport, I'd take Mexico, and I'd bet on that in 18 years. If I'm successful and I have some resources and I'm going to raise my children to be successful or start a business, whatever. If you want to learn about that philosophy and how to get some of these more exotic passports that other people aren't talking about, we have our annual event, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's 4 days where we talk about all this stuff. You meet with like-minded folks, and we help people figure out where to get a passport, where to get a residence permit, where to put your banking. Am I ready to bank in El Salvador? All my money in El Salvador? No. Maybe I have some bank account there, some bank account somewhere else. That's what you learn about at Nomad Capitalist Live. It's also what you learn about as our client, where we guide you through what are all the things that you need for a holistic plan. Not just grab a passport and then say what's next, but have the holistic plan, lower taxes, more freedom, asset diversification, and feeling like you're protected. Go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn more. I am very heartened to see more countries doing this, and it proves there will always be an opportunity.